This conference will now be recorded.
So today we will be seeing database connection from Python. What is database, what is SQL queries, and how to do it over Python. All those things we will be seeing today. So guys, you have any idea on what is a database and how to run a query? Any basic idea on that? Okay, good. Database is nothing but a collection of data you store in the form of table. You can imagine it as like a Excel sheet only. In Excel sheet, you will have lots of rows and columns where you can easily put down all your data. So similarly, in database, there will be lots of tables. Each table will have their own name, and you can fetch the data from each table. For example, if there is a college and where you have to maintain lots of data like 2011 students, 2012 students. So every year, a list of student data should be there, and it should have all the student personal profile like from which location they are from, what is their 10th mark, what is their 12th mark, I mean the higher secondary marks, and how much fees they have paid, whether they have paid for this particular semester or not. All those things will be there in one particular thing, and which stream they have picked, in which stream they are learning now. And then the other set would be like how they are performing in that particular stream, what are their semester grades, what is their individual mark from each paper, how many papers they have in semester. It depends. It changes from different, it changes between students, right? If the student has taken computer science and the another student has taken triple E, the content will be completely different. The paper they are writing, going to write for semester one will be different. And then it should also hold teachers' data, like which stream they are teaching and whether they can teach another subject as a substitute, and which location they are from, how much they are paid every month, all those things, whether they have what is their highest qualification, all those things will be there. The teacher detail will be there, student detail will be there, lab assistant details will be there, and what are the there will be one more table where they have to maintain all the purchases, what all they have to buy for this month, whether they have enough things. For example, if they are buying marker, how many marker they have bought this month, whether they have enough, and what where. So here the management will not take complete responsibility of everything, right? They will assign somebody to purchase all the things, lab material, computers, electronic items, all those things. Somebody will be there to go and purchase and provide the bill to the management. Then management will pay back. So all those things will be maintained. So there are, and then how many buses they have. Uh, they might have bus to drop the student to home after college. So who all the drivers, and what all the, I mean, how many students are staying in hostel and how many students are going back to home. All those data they have to maintain some way to get, if you want to fetch, it would be easy to fetch, right? Instead of writing everything down in a note, it would be very difficult to go and search manually. But if it is in the form of database, tables, and stored in computer, it would be very easy. So instead of writing in a note, they can initially put it in Excel sheet, right? It would be very easy. They can open, they can name one Excel sheet like 2011 computer science batch, 2012 computer science batch, and 2011 triple E. So first of all, to go and fetch the first Excel sheet would be easy. They can search by name. they will know which Excel sheet to open. Then they can easily give Control F and find the student name and get his all contact detail, what is their parent number, all those things, right? Instead of writing it down in a note. In a note, it is not that easy to go and refer, get the exact page where the student detail is there. Similarly, a database is a high sophisticated version of Excel sheet, you can say that, where you have all the details and easy to store. And so let me show you. So in short, you can tell the database is a structured collection of organized data where you can efficiently store and retrieve data, isn't it?
Please increase the font on.
Yeah, I'll change the size. 1 minute. So I assume that you all know basics of database, because if you have to teach database, it will take 3 more classes for you to give a proper understanding what is database, what all the types of database we have. So I'll tell it in a very brief format. So here, what we are going to see is there is a way to access database from Python as well. So usually, what database we will have some UI, for example, Toad or SQL developer, something, some UI will be there where you can directly go, where you have to give the database connection configuration. What is the host of a database, in which server machine the database resides, and what is the username and password. Because there will be multiple username based on the user, they will restrict what all tables I can have access to. So for example, a normal user, they will not have access to prod database, prod data. They can only access some lower environment data like either testing environment or develop environment. Even in testing and develop environment, they will not have insert access for few tables. They want to restrict, because otherwise somebody goes and insert something or delete something. For example, if there is an important table and if somebody by mistake goes and deletes everything, it will create a mess, because it's very difficult to know what all the data were present before and how to insert it back, right? So it will make the environment very unstable. So based on the user, they will have at higher level, they will have some restriction what all data they can view, they can modify. Okay, so if based on your username and password, you will know what all database you have access to. So initially, what you have to do, you have to connect to the particular host, and then using username password, then you can have, there are many multiple queries. Create, I mean, there are four operations in any database. Let me, we call it as CRUD. 1 minute. So there are four operations mainly in any database that's called CRUD, which is nothing but C stands for create and R stands for read. Create in the sense you can create a table. You can insert a record into a table. Then R stands for read, where you can select some data and see, view it. U stands for update. You can update a data, and D stands for delete. Okay, so I'll give a very minimal outlook on what is database and how we are going to connect from Python. The main objective is to see how, if you already know what is database, we are going to see how we are going to connect it from Python. Instead of directly going and doing it over SQL, sometimes you have to do it over code. You have to write a script, Python script or Python code to go and insert multiple data or delete a bulk of data. All those things, instead of doing it manually, you can automate it using Python script. So that is the main purpose. So if somebody is not aware of not aware of basic things in database, please let me know. I'll give you a set of material where you can go and understand what is database. So this we call query, whatever syntax we are writing to fetch the data or insert the data. So this is called query. So first C is for create, and the main purpose is to create a new table, new data. So to create a new data, you have to write insert into. So this is a table name, insert into employees, and consider these all the uh, column names in the table, and then you are giving the values. So the first column name is employee ID, and then name, last name, and job title. So all those things we are inserting. Then later you will see these detail inside the table after you insert. So after inserting a data, you can give select staff from employee. This is just enough. Select this part. Select staff from employee will give you all the data inside that particular table called employees. Or you want to only fetch one particular data. You know some details of the data. For example, I know I want to fetch Rajita's detail. I know Rajita's name or the ID or something related to Rajita. I can give that either I can give the first name is equal to Rajita. It is going to give me all the details of Rajita. So if you know in advance something, you can go and get that. Otherwise, you can just run select staff from employees to read all the data. And then later I can update data. So apart from understanding this, there are multiple types of database available in the market. One is Oracle, MySQL, Mongo, and Postgres. So depending on the use case, the application will choose which database they have to use. The query differs between each database. Oracle query, SQL query will differ from what you see with MySQL. It will be it will not be a major difference, a minor difference, but the syntax will change. You have to, if you are working with both the database, then you have to mug up the syntax. You have to be really sure. But if you know one particular database, then it is very easy to learn the other type of database available in the market. So here, if I want to delete one particular record, then I'm going to give which record. If you don't give this where condition, then it is going to remove all the data from the table. So apart from understanding tables and columns, you will have keys called primary key, foreign key, and there will be something called normalization, which is a set of rules maintained in the background of the database to reduce the redundancy or dependency. Like you shouldn't it will not allow you let you to insert some corrupted data, or it will not let you insert some redundant kind of data which is not complete, or repeated data. It will not let you do all those things. So some set of rules are applied in each database, and then in general you will have a query where you can go and fetch the data, and then you will have index which will make your data make your fetches very efficient. Like if you have a table which has large set of data, it will take few seconds to go and fetch. And if it is taking more time, then for example, if I have a UI where I can go and fetch Rajita's data, like just I have to give, for example, consider a UI where you have all the flights. You are going and giving the city name, two different city name, and you're finding flights. It is going to go and fetch it from database and show it in your UI, right? So you have source and destination. If it's taking lots of time, but because if the data set is large here, it is first have to go and fetch the source, and then the flight which is going to that particular destination. Because from the source, it is possible that it has multiple destination, right? From India, I can go to US. From India, I can go to Singapore also. So from India, I have to give a destination. Then again, I'm going to give some date. I have multiple filters. So it has to fetch from database and load it in my UI. If it is taking lots of time, then I'm not going to use that UI, right? If I have to wait for 1 minute to get it loaded, I'll definitely not wait for 1 minute. The user will be impatient and they will not use that particular website to fetch the flight detail or book the flights, right? We need everything in few seconds, right? So it has to be very efficient. So that's why we have index in place, which will make the data retrieval speed much faster. And then yeah, that's all you have to understand. But anything you are doing with insert and update, you have to commit it. After that, you have to pass a query called commit, which will save the data. Otherwise, until commit, you're not going to save it. So is it clear till here? What about Tilly and Sam? Okay, if somebody is having difficulty in understanding the basics of database, please let me know. I'll give some material, and I'll also check with Isha Training if there is some course which is teaching database. I will get at least the old recordings access for you for free. So later you can contact me if you have problem with database. So here in our course, we are going to see MySQL, which is easy to understand and it's widely used. There are many relational database available. As I said, NoSQL, Mongo, Postgres, Oracle, and let's see MySQL. So MySQL is a relational database, which we call as RDBMS, where you can use a query to fetch the data, and if you have to connect to MySQL from any programming language, a connector is used. A connector is a medium between the programming language and the original database. You should establish the connection using the connector. Uh, So to install, we have to install a Python MySQL connector, like how we installed Python, how we installed um, IPython, or like that. We have to install the connector. To initial step is you should have Python in your machine, and then later you can install the Python connector using the pip command only. So this is the command. So we have installed it successfully. Now we have to verify it. How we can verify it? Let me show that. So I'm just going to import. So once that is installed, you can import the particular library into your code. Okay, let me do it from here. The general format is this. Here you can give the host and your database name and username and your password. So we haven't created any database yet, so we cannot see that. So once you have the database, username and password, you have to just employ them here and a connection. The output will show that the connection is established, something like that. So now this is just for verification of your installation, but how do you do it from code? How do you connect is using connect method. So what we have is called, so this connect method is provided by MySQL. So this MySQL connector provides you a connect method, which is used to establish a connection between MySQL database and your Python application, right? So the syntax will look like this. So here you're creating an object, and then here you are using MySQL connector dot connect, and here you can inside that connect you have to give the detail like what is the host name, what is the username, what is the password. Hostname is nothing but you usually give the IP address where your MySQL is running. If it is running in your local, then you are going to give the local IP address. And username, username and password, which is needed to connect. So how it should work from Python to SQL is first you have to install MySQL connector. Yeah, it's done. Then you have to import it in your code, like how you import any library. Because this particular connector, MySQL connector, is going to have multiple method which comes from MySQL connector only. So this particular MySQL connector is going to have is a library. It is going to have lots of method which we'll be using in our Python to establish a connection, to do insertion, updation. So usually what you do, you install it, later you import it, then you establish a connection. You have to tell which database you are going to connect to, and then you have to do your update or insert or select anything. Then later you have to close the connection. You shouldn't leave the connection open. It is going to create a mess because if the connection is hold, so every database will have a set of settings which will tell how many connection can be opened at a time. If multiple connections are opened, because you cannot have lakhs of connection open, right? It should only have few connection. It's already determined and put it in some property file, it's not going to allow a particular user to go beyond that particular connection or any application to connect to that particular database beyond that particular connection. It cannot maintain lakhs of connection. It cannot monitor all the lakhs. It, for example, if it is 50, then it is not going to let you create more than 50. So whenever you're connecting, then you have uh, after your updation or initiation done, you have to immediately close the connection and let the connection free, because some other application can go and acquire a connection. So I mean, you need not hold the connection for you to do the retrieval later. Later, you can again establish a connection. If example, for after 5 minutes, you're going to do some query, you know, you're going to do it after 5 minutes, you can now close and you can connect back later. It's not going to harm anything, but if you hold the connection, it is really going to create a mess in your application. So it's very important to. So our code will look like this. So initially I am importing my SQL connector, and later I'm trying to connect. Then I'll print the connection. It will give me all the details, whatever I have supplied here. And then later I'm going to disconnect the connection. I can do in between this print and connect, I mean connection close, I can do all the operation I wanted to do. So this is way one. So this is one of the method to do connection. You can directly import connector and then MySQL connector dot connect. Using this connect method, you can supply all the data. Let me show the other method to do them. So another way is we have something called, here we have connected MySQL connector. We have something called connection class. So I'll do from SQL connector, I'm going to input connection, which we didn't do early. We are doing everything from the connector. Here we have something called connection. Inside the connector, we can make use of it. So I have to supply username, password. I'll better put it in the form of dictionary. So I'm going to create a dictionary. So it's not that you have to create a dictionary. You can directly supply like how I did here. But I can, if I have to use a connection, creating a connection, if I'm doing it multiple places in my database, instead of writing this long query, long line, I can put the details in dictionary. Then later what I can do, I can connect. The same thing what we did in the above example. We are going to print the connection and then we are going to disconnect. There is one more method to do the same.
And we don't need a password in dictionary?
Uh, okay, actually the root user doesn't need password. If you need password, you can put it here. So I haven't given password here as well. Username password. If you actually need password, then you can put additional one more parameter called password here. Usually the root user, which I'll be creating as a database, will not have password. You can do it here. I mean, you can add a parameter extra, which is called password, comma, password. And here also you can add like comma password. Is it clear?
Yes, Anu. Thank you.
Mhm. So here you can see when I am calling a connection, I'm just giving ** dictionary. So this is how you can pass dictionary as an input. We have seen in the previous class, right? If I'm passing to a particular class, if I have to pass some dictionary, some input, which is in the form of dictionary, then I am going to use ** dictionary. We have seen on Friday or Thursday, we have seen this, how to pass a dictionary as a parameter to some class or object. So this is how I'm going to pass this dictionary. Okay. So now I'm going to make use of, there is a website which already has. So now what I have to do, I'm trying to connect to some database from my Python, right? So instead of so to do that, I should have a database running somewhere, either in some host or in my local. I have to create a database. I have to create tables inside it. I have to insert records inside it. Then we can see whether the connection is happening properly, or whether the insert and update or select is working fine. So instead of doing all the setup on our own, there is a website called www.school. Let me put it here. Method three this. So so I'm just going to launch this page w3.school, because when I have a code here, but if I run, it is not going to connect, it is going to throw me an error because it cannot find the database. We are not giving any proper detail here. Let me go to this page, w3.schools. So here I can show. So this is how it looks. Import MySQL connector. I mean, this is how the page looks. Here you can write your comment. Here you will see the output. I know you would have used W3 schools in the past. Then later, they have all the connection available, set available. So this is their local host, username and password they have already set. So I'm just going to connect and I'm just printing the connection details. So it's when I run this piece of code, it is giving me MySQL connector connection object. So it is telling that the connection object is established, and this is the object. Usually, when you create a list of when you create a dictionary, empty dictionary, initially it will show some output, right? Then the object is at this something like that. So it is giving me such output. This is an expected output. How I mean, so now after establishing a connection, what we are doing, we are creating a cursor, and then using cursor only you can do any execution, any SQL execution. So I'm creating a cursor and then I'm creating a database. Instead of creating a database, you can execute any query like create table, insert some record into table. So we will see that. So here what I'm doing, I'm just importing the connection and then later I'm connecting and then I have created a cursor. Here I'm telling create database called my database. So when you create a database, it's not going to give you any output here, but it means if there is no error, then the database is created. Because if I run this in Jupyter, it is going to throw me an error because it cannot find this detail, this connection, it cannot establish this connection. So then later, what I'm doing, once I have created a database, right, initially, then I'm just creating a connection and then I'm telling show databases. So if you give show databases, it is going to give all the details of inside the database. So initially, whenever you create a database, sys will already be created, which is something called system sys user. Only the DBA will have access to this. If he wanted to change something in DB configuration, then he can do. So these all by default will have when you create a database. So what I'm doing, I'm just creating a cursor because cursor object is needed to execute any query. So after establishing a connection, I'm creating a cursor object. Then using that object, I'm trying this execute. So this cursor will have all the details. Now, whenever it runs this query, the output of this query will be saved here. Okay, so then to display or fetch the detail from this cursor, what you have to do, I'm running a simple for loop inside how we usually run in a Python. I'm just telling for X in my cursor, print everything. So in if you are connecting through SQL Developer or any Toad or anything, some SQL IDE, you will directly go and run your query, show database. It is going to display the output and at the bottom in the tabular format. That's how it displays. But here it doesn't display directly. It saves some way. If you want to display, you can run this. Usually we will not display in our code because nobody is going to watch the output. What we are going to do is we are going to do some automation. For example, I'm running some test. the test is creating thousands of records in 1 hour. But I want to clean that up later because my aim is to run some tests and then clean the data created by the test. Because if I, for example, if there is an application, somebody is testing it, for example, a Tilly is testing it, she is running some test script which is going to create data. Then again in the afternoon, she'll be running one more test script. So it will happen every day. So if she doesn't clean the data up, what will happen? The database size will grow large and it is going to create a mess in our environment where she is testing. So immediately after the test, she feels that this data is not required. I want to clean it up. So she's going to establish a connection and then she's going to run some query called delete something which is created in last 2 days. She's going to put a query in some way. What she will do whenever she's done with the test, she will have a Python where she should have written everything and put it. So if she's having 10 tables and she's deleting from all the 10 tables, and the test is going to always create data in those 10 tables only, then she will write up a Python code, and after the test is complete, she will just go and run that Python. That's all. Her work is done. She need not connect, she need not run the query separately manually. Or what she can do, she in our test only, after the test is completed, she can call the Python code from her test only. So the what the test will do, it will go and create the data and do the testing, and then it will establish the test result over mail. Then later it will go and delete. When you call this particular Python code where you have all the delete script inside it, it is the test will call the Python and it will delete. So it is like auto cleanup. She need not do it anything manually. Just for the automation purpose, we use Python. Otherwise, Python is not required to connect to your database. We do not need Python at all. You can directly go and connect to your database if you want to see some data. Only for the automation purpose, we use any programming language to connect our database and do something which is actually to reduce the manual effort. If you think that you're going to do something repeatedly every now and then, like every once in a week, or once in a month, you can automate it, like put it in the program. Figure out what all is needed and put it in the programs, and then you can call the program, which will take care of everything, which will reduce the manual effort and which will also reduce the manual error, human error. What she can do, she can write a Python script and she can pass it to a junior. If suppose she is giving a KT how to do it, the junior might mess up some way. The junior might delete something by mistake. So what she can do, she can put everything. You need not open this Python, just run this every day. End of the day, you run this before you log off. Something she can give the instructions so that the human error is reduced here. So now, did you understand this cursor? Like after establishing a connection, you have to create a cursor. Cursor is something an object which holds a particular current output. Using the same cursor, I can delete later. The cursor that time will have hold only the deleted output. So the cursor is some object, empty memory kind of thing, which is needed for database. So the cursor is now what the cursor. First, you have to create a cursor, which is by using the DB connection, the DB name you have given for the connection, some way you use, no? So for this DB connection, create a cursor. That's what you are telling here, and it is saved here because you need not call this every time, right? It is saved in some parameter in some variable. Then if I have to execute something, I have to give dot execute, and you have to put your program here, and later the output of this particular query will be saved inside my cursor. It will first execute, then it will save, like how you have input function. In whatever you put inside the bracket, it will first display to the user. Then whatever the user enters, it will be captured by the input. Then later from the input, you can get the data. Similarly, the same works here. Your cursor, from then you can, here I'm just trying to print everything from the my cursor. So that's why I have written this for loop, because I know it will have multiple data inside it. It is better to always put it inside for loop. So this is a program to create your database. You are going to establish a connection and then you are going to execute something using the cursor, which will have a create database query. Then once you create a database, you can fetch the details from the database. So this is a program to do that. So it looks like exactly same like the previous program, but here you are just I'm just printing the output. I'm just having one more for loop to print my output from the cursor. Then later what we are going to see is create a table. So to create a table, what I'm going to do, same thing. Establish a connection, create a cursor, and inside the cursor, I'm just running a create query. So here I'm creating a table called customer, which will have two columns. One is name, the other is address. I'm just mentioning here what is the maximum length the name can have, 255 character, and what is the maximum length the address can have, varchar, which is numeric and alphabet. The maximum length is 255. Beyond 255, it's not going to let you add any more words inside it. So once I created a table, I can go and I want to go and fetch the table. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run this command query called show tables, which is show all the tables in the database. If the database is having 500 tables, it will display all the 500 tables names here. So then I'm printing it. So this is how it prints in the form of a tuple or set kind of thing. The output will look like. So exactly same code I'm copying and pasting and again and again. Only I mean the output will change and here what we execute inside the query and how we print it will change. Otherwise, most of the things are same only. So now we have seen it. It showed a table called customer, right? Whatever we have created, it showed that particular table. So now if I want to alter the table, I want to add a new column to the table, then I'll be running this query called alter table inside my cursor. So now after altering, we will see what all the columns we have inside the table. So here you can see I've added a column called ID and it is auto increment and it is also a primary key. Auto increment means we need not insert any data into this ID. By default, whenever you insert a new query, it is going to increment the value. Like if the first query, when you insert a first query, I mean first record into a table, ID will have value 1. When you insert a second record, ID will have value too. So it automatically increments on its own. We need not add anything, but it will still have value even though we don't add anything. So now later, I'm just going to insert. Now I have a table created. I have altered the table. Now I'm going to insert record into the table. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to establish a connection, and I have created a cursor also, and I have created some variable called SQL where I have given inside query. I can directly put this here inside this value also, but I'm showing that we can do in different ways also. For example, if you are going to insert three records, instead of running 3 time SQL query, I can create three value 1, value 2, value 3, and each time I can pass a different value. So that is why I have split the query into two different format. Here I'm just passing the values from here. So what I'm doing is I created a SQL query. I then call this, I then execute it here. Instead of directly giving the query, I'm just giving SQL. I'm just using the parameter which has exact query inside it. So I have insert query. So here it is going to call the insert. And then later I said, no, any update or insert, you have to commit it. Otherwise, it will not hold the value. It will not permanently save it into a database. It's not a permanent save until you commit it. So I'm just committing it. Then I'm just giving a print, just a normal print. So that when you run some Python, only you will see this print statement, right? You will not see what happens. It will tell that record is inserted. How many records got inserted, it is going to tell. The row count is nothing but a number of rows you have inserted, that you can fetch it using from my cursor. This is a method called row count for this cursor. When you run this, it will tell you the number like 1, 2, 3. So the output will look like one record inserted, something like that. Let me show it over W3 schools. So I have given SQL query, and then when I commit it, and then later I'm trying to print this. The row count is giving me one. Then whatever I have given here, it's that printing exactly same. So now let me insert multiple records. You will use some function called execute many. Let's see that. To insert multiple rows in a table, then you can use execute many method. Let's see what is that. So we have created a connection, and also using that connection, we have created a cursor. I'm just giving SQL query. Then since I'm going to pass different value, I have different values here. So one after another, it is going to pass different values into this insert query. First this, then later this, then later this. It's going to do in that way. So I have a list. Value is a list, right? It's a list with tuples. It has multiple tuples, and it's in the form of list of multiple tuples. So here, instead of running execute, what I usually do is just execute, right? Since I know it's the multiple thing, I am going to give execute many. It knows that we are having a query which is which is going to insert multiple times, running the insert query multiple times. So it will carefully take one record after another from value and put it here and run this insert again and again in kind of in a loop. Then later, the same thing, I'm going to commit, and here I'm going to print. The row count is going to tell me how many records I have inserted. Let me put it in my W3 and show you. My query is running. Okay, it ran. So it inserted everything, and then it's telling how many. The row count is going to tell me how many records got inserted, which is 13. So I have 13 values here. So it inserted all the 13. Now we can select and see all the records. So here, we are inserting only two column, which is called name and address. We are not inserting that ID column, but still it will have value. The ID column will have value because it's a auto increment. It automatically increments and adds value to the table. So now I'm going to select a record from a table. Here I'm going to use a method called fetch all. So if I know I want to fetch only Rajita's record, I can in the where condition I can give fetch a start from customer where name is equal to Rajita. I know only one record will be given back to me. But if I'm going to fetch multiple record, then I can go for fetch all. So here the same thing, the cursor is created, then I am giving select star from customer. I don't have any way condition to filter the output. I'm just going to retrieve everything from the table. So initially we inserted one record, then we inserted 13 record, right? Here initially we inserted, what is that? I remember we inserted one record and then later 13. So let's see, let's run this and let's see. So I ran this, I have copy pasted my code and I ran this. It is giving me all the record, whatever we have inserted. So what all we inserted? We inserted Peter, Amy, Hannah, till Viola. So that's what we see. First we inserted John, right? Initially we inserted only one record, then we tried inserting multiple. So 13 plus 1, 14 records we have. So initially we inserted John, then Peter to Viola, but it's showing in the Michelle, we didn't insert, right? Okay, we have Michael. Okay, it's showing in some different order, but it shows all the record we have
No.
inserted.
Like number 5 is having Michael,
Oh,
and I don't
okay.
know where this 15 came.
Maybe I would have done that before. During I was testing something before this class. Maybe I would have did. So initially I inserted John. I remember that in our class. Then later Peter to Viola. So that is 13 record, right? First initially one record, then 13, which is 14 records. To till Viola we have inserted. This I would have inserted before. So we have Michelle. So we see all the 15 record, which is we are just executing a select query using my cursor, and then later we are fetching all the details of my cursor and putting it into my result. Then I'm just printing it them in the for loop. You can't directly put my cursor here in this case because you are seeing a record, a row, and then multiple rows are there. So you have to use fetch all using the cursor You have to save the result some way, or you can directly give this fetch all in the for loop, but it's better to create a variable and then call that variable here. I can later here, instead of select star from customer, I can add some way condition also. And way condition, I can give some name or ID or some address, and I can fetch only that. So let me run an example. So here I have given address is equal to Park Lane. It just runs the query and what is there in Park Lane. So here you have 11 Bend Park Lane 38. It is fetching and giving me only that particular record, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, till here is it clear, guys?
Yes, Anna.
Okay, so tomorrow we will see what all the other queries we have in database and how to call them and what all the method like fetch all, execute many. What all other method we have, we will see that. Only this method changes a little. Until here, you're going to do the same thing again and again. Only how you fetch or how you run the query and those few things nuances will change. Otherwise, it's same. So
Anu,
let me.
why you didn't do anything in Jupyter Notebook? You are using W3, right? So where this
That is because so that
data
is
will be
because that is because I don't have this database in my local. I wouldn't create a database in my local, so I have a server which is W3 school, which gives me a server. You can also try W3 school. That's why I've printed the given the endpoint, I mean the URL here. Here, this is nothing but a server where you can go and create a database. So by default, W3 school is having a database called this. By default, it has a database. You can go and access this database. For every session, the database will be empty. So when I access hereafter, when I go and try anything in W3 school, it is going to give me all the 15 records. But when you go and try for the first time in your computer session, it will be empty. You can create any table, you can run anything. It will show with I mean it will have a set of query also in W3 school. You can directly go and execute it. Or otherwise I'll find a way to do it on ourselves, like creating and displaying in our local. I'll do it. Maybe tomorrow I'll try it out. Creating a database is actually a mess. To do it in your local. I'll try to do that maybe.
Yeah, we had to install MySQL in our laptop, and then
Yeah,
we can do all these things. So we can create our own DB over
a
there,
database.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we can
installation
see
for
that.
MySQL is little very like you will get lot of
Error.
errors.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will have to I mean it is going to take me so much time. But my main aim is whether the program what I am writing is executing or not, whether it is giving the output or not. So that's why I'm not running it anything here, and I'm taking help from W3 school. But I'll connect with somebody in Asia. If they have already did it, I'll get help from him. But again, the thing is, it's very challenging to connect to um, any instructor. They will be busy because after their course they'll go for their regular job. They'll be busy even on the weekend. I actually tried connecting with them over weekend. One of the person said he will be available, he will help me out to do all the installation in my local, but he got busy. Since weekend we cannot expect them to spend time on this, no. So then I thought, okay, I'll go with W3 school. I'll try to do it. If in case you are working, for example, Tilly is actually working, she can copy paste this program. She can send this program to her to our official email. There you just you will know what is your local host, and I mean what is the host name, because you are anyway connecting through some ID, right? Whatever configuration you have given in that ID, that properties you can copy and paste it here, the local host username and password and database name, and you can you can run the query from your local, I mean in your company. You might be connecting through some VDI or something, right? There you can put this query. You just have to change the details here, then you can run. If you're working somewhere, then you can make use of that database and you can run the select query. All those things you can do. Insert query you can run, but don't give commit, because otherwise it is going to commit, right? It's going to permanently save, then later you have to delete. So either you can run insert query without commit, or you can run commit and then later you have to delete that particular record. You can do in that way, because they already have a database and they have all the host detail and everything. You can make use of that.
Now for practicing, Anu, we should give all these details only if we want to try in W3 schools.
Yeah. Maybe I'll find a better way tomorrow. I'll find easiest way for you guys to do this.
Yeah,
Let me.
Microsoft is having a very easy one. So installation is much easier.
Okay. So you guys
Yeah.
also please try if you know something. Maybe we can. I'll follow the instruction whatever you give. I'll install it, because I'm not that good at installing DB. I've never did that. Any programming language installation, all those things I've did. So I
But
can.
there I didn't have it automatically connect to our local host, but I
Hmm.
don't see user password, all those things. That's why, like
Okay.
for
But if you're
practicing,
creating a connection, right, on your own from your in your local, by default it will have some what is
maybe
that?
we have to
By default
install some
root and
install a
maybe.
pip something related to Microsoft thing. I think I'm not
You
sure.
just try it out. If you could do the DB connection, then I'll find a way to connect to the DB from Python. I'll try. I can guarantee that I can do that, because
Okay.
from Python I have connected to multiple different databases. I mean different databases means Postgres, Mongo, everything I've worked. So I can find out or figure out a way, but installation is actually very difficult. Yeah, please try. If we could successfully do it, then we can do it in my machine also. So every time when I run some SQL things, we can connect to that database and fetch the data. I can directly go to the database, write some insert query, and from Python I can go and select and see if we are selecting all the data. All those things we can experiment. Yeah, guys, we can wind up the session here. Thanks all.